Welcome into Training Camp Live. Casey Phillips here with the great Ronde Barber. We are just so honored to have you with us this morning. Thanks for being with us.
I'm honored to be with you, Casey, always.
Oh, thank you.
Always.
Thank you, sir. Well, I have about 1,000 things that I want to ask you, and I know our fans probably feel the same way. So make sure you get those questions in for us on Facebook underneath our live video. We'll get to those in our final segment. But, of course, we start every show with our Ticketmaster play of the day. Let's check this out. This is from our last practice. We have Brady here throw into none other than Cam Brate, which I know everyone is so excited to see him back in action, and that can lead us into our first topic for us. The tight end group, I know, I want to hear your thoughts on what this could look like with all of them healthy.
Yeah.
And what do you feel like, I'd love to know for you, if you had to go against that group as a defense, what that would have been like.
Not easy. Look, they've always, well, at least since Tom has been here, they've always emphasized 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field. So Tom, you know, he brought it really into existence and popularity was in New England. It
was just to further the brand of the TB12, right? You know?
Exactly. So I think he likes matchups with tight ends, not only because he's always played with Gronk, but because, when I was playing, my end of my playing days, I had a number of battles against Tony Gonzalez. I was the dime back in our defenses, and it just creates that matchup nightmare. I mean, I know it's cliche at this point. Everybody's heard that, but it's true. Do you put a safety on them? Do you put a linebacker on them? They're just tough to deal with. So you bring OJ back into the fold, and I'd say OJ's, I don't know, from my perspective, he's probably only around 70% still. Cam Brate being out at the beginning of camp was, somewhat problematic, but it gives guys like Tanner Hudson and Cody McElroy a chance to put stuff on tape, a chance to run against the first defense in the first offense, and you get to see what they're made of. So what could this look like if all 4 or 5 of those guys make this team? It could be dynamic. I mean, all you really want, and Casey, you know this, you've been doing this forever, all you really want coming out of preseason is quality depth. And I think having those guys get quality reps, it will help them, or help the Bucs at least, realize or better realize what kind of depth they have at that position. But it's a great group right now.
Yeah, and that's perfect because you called the first preseason game. That was exactly what I wanted to ask you about next, was some of the depth that you were able to see. First, I wanted to remind everybody you're getting that live look out of the practice field. Normally, there's more happening behind us out here to start with. Right before our show, they decided to start practice about 20 minutes late, so we will still try to sneak in some of those live shots before the end of our show. But right now, there is not as much happening behind us, so that is why. But all right, so looking at that depth from the first preseason game, what were some of the positions that you were excited to see, knowing there weren't going to be a lot of the starters playing, knowing that was going to be a quick little appearance? What were you looking forward to?
Running back. It's already a deep position, at least with our 2 starters, and Lenny and Rojo. But what did you expect from Gio? We got exactly what we expected from Giovanni Bernard. I mean, he's a great 3rd down option. I think he caught Brady's first 3rd down pass and converted it into a 1st down. But then Keyshawn Vaughn, I had a great conversation with Bruce last week about Keyshawn, and essentially he was telling me that Keyshawn is the 3rd running back, and he's the 2nd 3rd down back. So put that in your heads if you can. He would, if Rojo and Lenny got hurt, he would be the starter, and Gio would still be the 3rd down back. And then on top of that, he's also Gio's backup at 3rd down. But I thought he had the best game of anybody not named Tanner Hudson, who always has good games in preseason.
Mr. August.
Yeah, Mr. August. But I think Keyshawn Vaughn has done a lot in the offseason. He stood out for me. A guy that you're probably not going to be expecting me to say is John Mulcah. He had to play center because Robert Hainsey is out. Donnell is also out. Those were the 2 centers early in camp. And I think last week you saw him take a couple of snaps at center, knowing that he was going to have to play as soon as Ryan Jensen came out of the football game. And, when I was watching the film and, grading it in my head a couple days ago, I said the biggest winner on the offensive side of the ball is Mulcah, because he showed some versatility. He'd been playing guard all camp. And I thought he did really well at center in his first opportunity.
Yeah, and we've talked so much about how this has been different than other training camps because we're not having the starting battle discussions you normally are. Right now it's all about sort of those later on the depth chart and figuring out some of those roster spots. And offensive line, of course, is an area that we knew the starters are just so set. I mean, that is just not even a question. But I do think it was one that the depth was more up in the air than a lot of these other positions. So how secure do you feel now, seeing from training camp to some of the preseason, how important some of those abilities to play a lot of different positions are, and who could make the roster because of that?
I think I'll say this. the second string and kind of third line guys on the offense on the O line, they didn't play as well as I wanted them to on Sunday, as evidenced by the way that Trask was running for his life when he got into the game in the third and fourth quarter. But they did show some position versatility. Mulcah is one. Leverett is another one. He struggled a little bit at tackle, but I know he can also play guard. But look, that position to me is the most important, obviously, because you just said it. They're first five guys from left to right. Donovan, Alex Kappa, and then Tristan Wirfs, who I think's probably one of the better right tackles in football already. Those guys are great. But you're only an injury away, and we learned that last year that you need quality depth. That's why Aaron Stinney was such a big surprise for a lot of people, because he came in and really helped guide them to a Super Bowl. And I don't think anybody would have expected that in the preseason. Now, you have to find more of those guys. You absolutely have to find more of those guys, because injuries on the offensive line are inevitable. And these guys, let's put it this way. It's a good thing the starters aren't playing next week, because those guys need another opportunity to prove themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. All right, we still have plenty more coming up here with Ronde, and we're going to get to your questions from Facebook in our final segment. For now, let's check in with those highlights from our last training camp practice from Thursday.
Case, this is a reminder I'm mic'd up. This is a reminder I'm mic'd up. I got the feds on me today. Can't change for the cameras. I'm gonna gas real quick. Warm it up. I'm fast, boy. I said it's hard out here for a pimp. Had the Cadillac of cash money spent. Straight to it. I see you going the speed limit now. It's hot out here, man. It's hot out here. Damn. 7-3 got all day. 3 plays. Stop the run. Blaine, what I tell you, man? You gotta set the feet. Way to be two, Knots. Good peel. Good peel. Good peel. D.Y., you did today, then? I'm the wheel. I got first and y'all must be doing something at the middle, huh? Y'all doing something at the middle, you put him here. What if I get shook? What if I get shook?
If you get shook, that's why we got your man behind you. Get loud.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just testing to see what you got, man. Come on, man. Coming off too fast. I almost had to lock you up. Oh! Damn! Hey, you see my six-pack? You see my six-pack? Oh! I see! Ow! Put my head in there.
Appreciate it.
Sometimes you gotta do it, dog. Ain't that right, big girl? You probably lost 10 pounds already. I'll try to block it.
Go, Bucs on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Bucs. Put the speed down a little bit. Raise it up, man. I'm slippery. Hold on. I'm gonna catch it now. You know what I'm saying? We be dropping in cover, you know what I'm saying?
Get your pick, brother.
It's booming out here. I'm tucking and I'm tucking. 5 points of pressure. When we lower it down, it's kind of short. That's all done now. Sean, you taking notes? I see you, dog.
Welcome back into training camp live. Casey Phillips here with Ronde, Barber, and we are talking all things that first preseason game and these last few training camp practices we have here. We talked a lot about offense that first segment, which of course we want to, talk to you about defense, your specialty.
How am I doing, by the way? Am I good on TV?
You know, you might want to try it.
Okay.
You might want to give it a shot. It seems to be going pretty well for you. You know, almost as well as that whole like Hall of Fame kind of football career that you had. You seem to be pretty good at whatever you try. Golf, even. I mean, whatever you do. You just need to go buy a lottery ticket, whatever it is. You're killing it.
My first time on Bucs Live, man.
I'm sure this is pressure packed for you.
Pressure, man.
Like, you know, being on national television calling those games is nothing compared to training camp live. Okay, so let's look at the inside linebacker group. I know that we've talked a lot about how depth is what we're paying attention to in preseason, and that's a group that I think a lot of people are interested, again, so locked down on the starters. But let's look at those other guys, and they could end up being big contributors in other ways.
I like the rookies. You know, I like KJ Britt, especially. I was just telling you, I always take a look at preseason special team snaps. Who's lining up with the first coverage units? And, you know, I write down the little notes, and on that list is KJ Britt, it's Joe Jones, who they brought in specifically from Denver to be a special teams guy. Also on that list is Kevin Minter, who is one of our special teams aces. And more importantly, Joe Tryon was on a bunch of special teams. And I think that's one of the things that we need to focus on is, yes, our inside linebacker depth is stellar, right? You got two of the best that have ever done it in Tampa Bay. And I say that about Devin White, and he's only been here for 2 years. And then, of course, you have Shaq Barrett, JPP, technically outside linebackers, but really rush ends. Those guys aren't going to play special teams, so who backs up, right? People forget, I think, how narrow the roster gets on game day. So guys that you expect to play a lot on defense, most of those guys got to play special teams all year long. I mean, that was, you know, one of the things that I valued in my career was being able to play special teams because it helped with the roster spot. So if you look at those guys, and I'll start with KJ because, you know, KJ's got a thumping type of style when he's playing on defense, and that translates to special teams. He's able to create, you know, a lot of momentum going down the field, and, you know, you just want to get out of his way for the most part. The other guy is Grant Stewart, obviously, the other rookie inside linebacker. I thought he struggled a little bit on defense on Saturday. He missed some gaps. He was a little late to some fits, especially some of the boot passes out to the flat. But where he shined for me was on teams. Immediately when he got his opportunity on teams, you saw where his value could be there, and that's only going to help him in the long run.
And I think that really was a point of emphasis they talked about in the draft, right? Was they wanted to get the speed, and especially the speed when it came to special teams. That as much as, you know, the kicking game had improved and special teams had gotten really solid on the kicking front, there were some aspects on coverage and even the return game that I know was a big point of emphasis in the draft, including guys like Jalen Darden.
Yeah, well, that's why you bring in Jalen Darden. I think some people might assume that because he's small, he's not a big guy, and usually punt returners can be the little shifty guys. You want your kick returners generally to have more straight line ability, that breakaway ability. It's why it was actually encouraging to see Keyshawn Vaughn go back there and take some kicks. But I fully anticipate Jalen Darden to be the starting punt and kick returner for this football team. But you can never have too many at that position. And I like him. Jalen Darden, to me, he showed more on offense than he showed in the return game on Saturday, but obviously we know how dynamic he can be.
And speaking of rookie draft picks, Joe Tryon, we obviously got to get into that and
Who's
talk about him. Who's that? Have we heard of him before? Yeah, so tell me what you thought about him, some of the initial things you've seen out at practice and in that game and his future here.
He was exactly what I expected of him. I watched 4 practices last week. Those are my first days out at camp, and you immediately noticed, you know, the natural bend that he has, the ability to stay in his posture is a gift. You know, you see a lot of big athletic defensive linemen play standing straight up. I don't think I've in my 5 or 6 practices and games that I watched him here, I don't think I've seen him stand straight up yet. So he's got that. He's got that natural ability, stuff that you can't coach. And then he's just strong. You know, he's strong and he's fast. And we were just recently speaking speed to power or power to speed. The guy has both. The sky's the limit for him, man. And when you hear people call him electrifying and he's the real deal, the full package, it literally is not hyperbole. It is not an over-exaggeration to get super excited about what he's going to bring to this football team.
I know that's got to get everybody really excited. And, of course, we'd be remiss if we don't talk to you about the DBs, right?
Yeah.
So tell us what your thoughts are on the guys returning from last year and your starters and what you think they could be capable of. I mean, considering they started last season with some different quote-unquote power rankings, putting them dead last, which I'm sure as a former player you love power rankings and loved them back then. But to see that they went from people thinking they had a chance to be dead last in the league to what they did and what they could be this year, and then looking at some of the depth as well.
I remember back in 1998 when I was getting ready to be, a player and a part-time player on this team, and I had to play in a game. And I think they would have put me as a dead last in the rankings. So about those rankings, they can, you can go kick rocks on those things. The secondary, I think, start with Carlton Davis. I think he's one of the better corners in the league. His production increases. The rest of the league will realize how good he really is. I think Sean, with the way that he finished the season, especially in the playoffs, that bodes well for him and his confidence. When I think about Sean Murphy-Bunting, I say he's got all the talent in the world. He just needs the confidence to go do it every single practice, every single game, and just keep perfecting his craft. Jamel Dean is huge. He can run. He's got a lot of upside. The safeties are, to me, Jordan Whitehead is one of the most underrated guys on this football team, wow. and I like him because he reminds me of me. He's a guy that nobody
well, no wonder.
Nobody gave a lot of credence to, especially because you have Antoine Winfield Jr. on the other side of him. So it's like, who's the other guy? He's the lesser of the two, but to me, he brings the attitude. You talk to the defensive back coaches here, they say the energy is not the same when Jordan Whitehead's not out there. Now, I think one of the really good things that this team has done, Jason Light, Greenberg, is they've created depth depth and competition at that position. You're looking here at Ross Cockrell, who was a corner last year for this football team, but transitioned to free safety, and all he did was go out and make a bunch of plays. And you add him into the mix with Mike Edwards, and you have 4 safeties, and really, I mean, the sky's the limit for these guys. I was really impressed. Before I lose track here, the one guy that, and we talked about who stood out for me on offense on the other side of the ball, the one guy that stood out for me on defense was Jevon Hagen. He had a couple of great plays. Now, did he miss some tackles? Yes. Hit him with your chest, Jevon. Come up with a body part. But the interception that he made, the hustle plays that he made, it's great. It's great for him. Put that on film. Our depth at safety looks great. And you can call it a weakness if you want to. That's usually, to me, I'll look at that as a compliment to that group, because the front 7 are so talented. But in reality, there's no weakness back there. They've gotten better in a year, and they're still young, and they're only going to get better as the year goes on.
That is great to hear. That is such an exciting stat for that group of guys. Okay, so we have another segment coming up, which is going to be getting to your Facebook questions. So this is your last chance to submit some of those underneath our live Facebook video. And since we were talking about those inside linebackers, let's meet KJ Britt.
I'm just grateful for the opportunity, just grateful for the chance. They trusted in me and believed me enough to draft me. Believed in me enough to just get me down here and just so I could bring my talents and my skills to Tampa Bay. This is a great situation. Just be able to learn from 2 great players. 2 players that I was watching, growing up. Levante was watching him in high school. Devin, watching him all throughout college, and just be able to play behind him to learn, and then playing with a great linebacker coach as well. Every year, coaching linebackers, for 100 tackles. So I feel like it's a great role, and just get in where I fit in. For some special teams, whatever, just ready to play. I love the way they play fast, physical. They're determined to make every play, do everything right. Just not tackling, but, interceptions and sacks and, forced fumbles. They're just great to watch them. I was talking about UCL on my thumb. I thought I was going to have a huge senior season. I just learned how much I really love the game. Being around the game and just being around my teammates really brought me joy when I was really down. So the game is something that I can't even really put into words. It's just like precious to me. I'm a firm believer that you got to attack the day, win each day. You day 14, day 15, you won each day. You're going to put yourself in a good spot. So I'm just embracing every role that they give to me, get a little bit better each day, that somebody see it. And I can only control what I can control, and that's just what my actions are. Just against somebody who loves football, love, the culture that's here. I just love winning, man. I love winning.
Soldier Field in Chicago. Good game, 2-point lead for the Buccaneers. Fourth quarter begins with a 2nd and 6 for Nick Foles and the Bears.
I think last year I was picking up as the season went on. I thought I was progressively getting better.
Vita Vea, he's alone inside. He's one of the big reasons why this team is so hard to run the football against.
The night that Chicago game, I think I was starting to have one of the best games of my career.
Foles is sacked. That is Vita Vea.
The game was slowing down for me. I was seeing offensive plays that I'd never seen before, and I was like, everything was just going perfect for me. And boom.
I'd expect Foles to start bringing them now.
Extra men on the rush here. Montgomery looking for somewhere to go and brought down from behind by Devin White. Now Vita Vea is injured.
We had a blitz call, and they ran like a quick screen or whatever. I'm running to the guy, and I go to jump on his leg, and I landed on Vita's leg because he was tackling him as well.
That big presence in the middle, so vital to what Todd Bowles is doing on defense.
I remember everything, the moment, and I took a knee, and I seen down, I was like, yeah, it looked bad, man.
He made the game easier for me, guys like me and Devin. So, very unfortunate that had to happen to him. But, if you know Vita, he's always in good spirits. He's always in high spirits. He's always positive.
You seen him run over the 2 dudes and score? And then Tom Brady hugged him? You want a hug too? I want a hug. Come on, Brady. Hey, make sure you get a hug from Tom Brady. Brady still never gave him a hug.
I got up and they carted me out the field, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, damn, I don't think he's broken.
Vito's a special player. Huge loss to us at that time. And to watch him rehab and work, then seeing him running as we were getting ready to go in the playoffs, it's like, hey, we'll keep winning, you keep working. And then talking to the strength coaches, they're like, he wants to play, and that's the biggest part of rehab, is wanting to.
Right after the game, I got onto the bus, and Sue was sitting across from me. He put the idea in my head. He's like, you can probably come back if we keep winning in the playoffs and we just keep winning out. After that night, I was like, I had that in my head. I was like, yo, I'll make it back.
Welcome back into Training Camp Live. Casey Phillips here with Ronde, Barber, the next future Hall of Famer. We're just speaking it into existence right now.
Keep saying it.
Keep saying it. We're just speaking it into existence. All the smart people know that should happen. Okay, so final segment here. We're taking your Facebook questions. So put those underneath our Facebook live video before we start reading some of those. I wanted to hear your thoughts on joint practices this week, preseason game 2, what you're going to be wanting to look at, and what you even remember about joint practices from your time.
Let's start with that last question. My first joint practice was in Miami when Dan Marino was still quarterbacking the Dolphins.
No small task.
Yeah, it was not good. I got a couple of snaps against him while I was running with the first, or I don't even know it, second team defense, and he threw a pass over me in cover 2, really, which he shouldn't even attempted to throw, and it went by my ear so fast.
You just heard like.
I was like, oh, Dan Marino. Good to know you, buddy. Joint practices are great. I think most coaches get more, and I said this on the broadcast, most coaches get more out of the joint practices than they do in the game. Because it can be more in a controlled setting. You can set up situational football. You have somewhat, control over, the physicality of the event, whereas in games you just kind of let it go. And in the games, it's preseason. A lot of the games are playing with guys with some inexperience, maybe being a little overzealous, trying to do more than their job requires. And injuries are an issue. Not so much out in the joint practices. So I think I'm as big a proponent of it as of all these head coaches. There's no doubt why every NFL team does joint practices either the second or third. Well, no, I guess there's not a fourth preseason game now. Either the first or second week of training camp, because you get good looks and you get good tape. And to be honest with you, you get tape of another team. which, it's a little added benefit in case, down the road you might be looking at a guy.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And all right, we got some of our Facebook questions here. Our first one was, do you think it is possible to have 3 1,000-yard wide receivers this season?
Oh, that is hard. I mean, I know that Tom Brady's going to throw for 4,000 yards again this season, but to get 3 separate 1,000-yard receivers, I mean, think how hard it was a couple of years ago when Jameis got 2 out of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And it's difficult. So the answer to that is no, but I'll take 3, 1,000 and 2 800-yard receivers.
Yeah.
That's a little more plausible. I got to sit down with Tom at some point to do a Q&A for our WFLA broadcast, and that's one of the questions I want to ask them. I want to say, is it more or less difficult when you have this many weapons on offense? Because most quarterbacks have a guy. You get to a certain third down, and you know who you're looking for. But I don't even know who that could be. I mean, obviously it's Mike, because Mike's had so much success on third down. But Rob Gronkowski, I'd look for him every single third down if I could. And then you add Gio Bernard to the mix. The options are endless for this offense. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward for the effort to get the 3,000-yard receivers, but I think it's impossible.
Yeah, and we had Christopher asking, do you think Khalil Davis will be a lock to make the team?
I'm glad he asked that question, because when we were talking about special teams earlier, I neglected to bring him up. One of the big battles in camp that I've seen so far is Khalil Davis and Pat O'Connor. Pat's made this team a couple of years now, and it's because of his value on special teams. So we didn't point it out in the preseason game on Saturday, but Khalil Davis is running down on kickoffs. He's running down on punts, and what are his measurements here?
Yeah, he's a large fellow.
He's 6'1", 308 pounds, and he actually looks kind of agile on his feet. He's got a little bit of explosion. So yes, could he make this team? Absolutely. I think it's his job to make it. I think they're expecting him to shine on special teams and to continue to do the good things that he's been doing on defense, and they'll give him a chance to be here.
Okay, and I love this question. You are the perfect person to answer it. Jay asked, do you think this year's defense will be as good or better than the 0-2 defense? Not like you're biased to answer this in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I'll say this. Our 0-2 defense, very similar to this defense, had a rise. It had a steady rise. Monty in 1997, when I first got here, had this defense already starting to roll. And by 99, 2000, 2001, we had been a perpetual top 10 defense. This defense is really just now, and it's in its second year last year, going into its third year, hitting its stride. Will it be as good as ours? I mean, I hope so. I mean, I think that's what it's going to take for this team to repeat. A lot of praise, and rightful praise, was placed on Tom Brady coming in here and leading this offense 30 points per game. He threw however many 40 touchdowns last year. But we all know, people inside the building, people who really follow football, know that it was the defense at the end of the year that made the difference in us winning or losing in the playoffs in the Super Bowl. So could it be as good as us? It could be, but we have a couple Hall of Famers on our defense. But it's tough to match. It's tough to compare, and I really don't want to.
Yeah. There's no good answer here for you, because either you're just like, no, we're better, and then everyone's like, you're biased.
Yeah, my hubris says, heck no, they're going to be good as us. We were
get out of here.
Legit good, and these guys are legit good too, and they've only gotten better because Todd Bowles' scheme continues to evolve. And you add number 9 to the mix. I mean, it could be scary good defense this year.
All right. And Nick asked, do you think Ryan Griffin is on the hot seat? How many QBs do you think we will carry into the season? So, just overall, let's talk about that backup QB position.
Well, I think hot seat, I mean, that's your statement. But I think the reality of the matter is that they drafted a quarterback in Kyle Trask in the second round with an intention with him intended to be on the football team. We know that Blaine Gabbert is the backup quarterback here. Bruce has stated it many times over. He loves him. He was with him in Arizona. He's got great tangible assets too. He's got a strong arm. He can move out of the pocket. Talking about Blaine Gabbert. So really, that final spot, I think they only keep 3. I think they're only going to keep 3. That final spot is going to go down come down to Trask and Ryan Griffin, and Trask the second-round draft pick. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, that is always, it's a factor. It absolutely is. Well, Ronde, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. You crushed it, as always.
Well, I'm sweating out here, so I'm doing this just for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored. Well, thanks to all of you guys for being here with us as well. We will be back tomorrow, and we're going to start having those Titans joint practices. I'm going to have Dave Moore with me tomorrow, so make sure you tune in then. But we are starting at 10 a.m. because the joint practices are a little later. So check in with us then. Have a great day.